High above Retakot, the bloody chancers were taking a bloody chance indeed. Their homemade spaceship drifted in orbit, tumbling around as a variety of repairs and finishing touches were made. They had to rely now on the ship's long-range sensors. These devices would alert of any incoming IPA attention, and more importantly, locate the IPA headquarters. Why did they need to go there? We'll let Paulo explain.
Don't you remember when you came here? You must have got inside these pods, right?
He was saying from one end of the megabed. Further down, the Tindrans recalled their initial adventure.
It was like being put to sleep, but you woke up right away,
Stave said.
That's stasis. We need stasis pods to let us travel out of the system. IPA ships are full of them, so we need to take one intact.
Ah, I was just getting used to this bucket,
Issa said.
We can keep it if you want, just need to move the pods in here. Can't we just fly without sleeping? Lady asked. No, for two reasons. Firstly, if you want to go to pieces, for example, that would take 30 years. Earth and margin is more like 50. That's 50 years, Earth years that is, of sitting right here in this bed.
Are you not comfortable, ancient sapper?
Kermer asked, cuddling up to Paulo.
Hey, it don't matter. Because of the second reason. We don't have an entanglement manifold.
Speak for yourself.
It's a component of the Tanaka drive. We need it to even reach the speed of light.
How fast is that? Boy asked.
Fast as you can go without breaking time. I already went to the future. Maybe I can go faster, Staves reasoned. If anyone can, it's you, Staves. But whatever the case, we need to salvage the Tanaka drive from the colony ship, the big one parked at the OPA station, or take one from the station itself. OPA must have kept one from when their operation first arrived.
Probably, Est shrugged under the covers.
Let's just worry about getting us shipshape, then we'll go looking for trouble,
Issa concluded.
We'll call your little team on the ground in the morning and see if we can get the rest of the parts we'll need with the cargo shuttle.
The lights were turned off, and what passed for nighttime in space commenced. In the self-styled morning, Holt tried to hail the last castle from the bridge, to no avail.
No one's picking up, he sighed. I thought Satsuki sent us some reliable guys. Might have just been refugees she wanted off her hands.
You said you trusted her, Boy complained. Yeah, I wasn't trucking lying. I'll keep calling. As he went to do so next, he found someone calling him. Opening a radio link to the castle, a loud series of noises shook the speakers. Someone was saying something, but it was so fully punctuated by gunfire that not much was made out. Holt tried to ask questions, but screams marked the end of the cacophony. The channel remained open and empty.
Delivery held up, is it?
Est grunted. We got a serious problem. Can we take a closer look? Holt asked Issa, who nodded.
Very close. We've got fuel for a round trip, but just the one.
Sounds like we'd best go in guns blazing.
So with this, the adventure to space was cut rather short. The ship burned a track back down towards the last castle, where its cargo shuttle was already sitting, half loaded, with more equipment flowing in from Bystone. Even from high above, it was clear that its sides were splattered with blood. Issa's guns blazing idea was a good one. The ship's cargo doors were opened, dropping the crew into the shed. The shed was too small for the ship now, so Issa and Est piloted it to the savannah to land. Meanwhile, the castle's affliction became immediately obvious.
Mega spiders!
Boy shouted, and you can probably guess why. Immediately, those guns started to blaze. The ship shed flanked the heresy cave, and new openings appeared to have been carved between them. Mega spiders emerged, mandibles bloody and draped with clothing, before being ripped apart by tightly packed thunderbolts and blowwork blasts.
Clear 'em out! Look for anything alive and whatever, Huntsman called.
He worked his way forwards with a quick-firing blowwork shotgun, frying spiders with bolts of glowing hot metal. In the cave, he saw their worker drones building nests at the top of new tunnels.
Stick to your level!
Tokka screamed at them, hip-firing buckshot all around. The smaller workers scurried away, and a quick search of the castle brought a thunderous demise to any warriors still at large. It also revealed the fate of the team left on the surface. A few were technically alive by the time the action was over, but didn't last long after that. By the looks of things, they had taken down a fair few of the spiders in their last moments, which might just have saved the lives of the Chancers upon their return. "These caves have longed for death," Camariero commented. "Only we are beyond the Kote, no one else." "If you're saying you can't die, why don't you test it?" Holt said. "I test it every day, Zappa. This dark display here is more proof. The Kote must continue." "We're getting rid of this thing," Boy said, gesturing around at the Heresy Caves. "Same as Com said, looks like there's supposed to be a punishment, just not for us. It's cursed. Or we are. Brought this upon myself." Tokka was tasked with symbolically opening the cave up by breaking out of the rock formation it resided in, trying to reach a point where the Overlord might consider it to be outdoors enough to have shaken the curse. Other, more scientific work went on nearby. The shuttle full of fresh components was unloaded so that they could be hiked out of the castle to the ship nearby. The craft had settled into the sand beyond the walls. Not being in zero-G was going to make a lot of the planned work difficult, yet the business of burying the Tets and receiving the incoming shipments meant that the Chancers were grounded. Work carried on as best as possible, tuning the engines and adding rear sections for extra storage. Their next departure would need to be carrying everything they wanted from the planet. A small nose section was extended from the front to house another laser emitter. Two short wings of steel were curved around the engines for protection, and two heavy multi-stage airlocks were added to the back corners of the new rear section. The overall design now resembled a slow shell, with the nose, wings and airlocks forming the head and feet around the core shell. Rumours that Staves really had designed the ship became harder to ignore. The most fiddly addition was a sensor array in the nose that would supposedly help find the IPA's base, that being the relocated OPA station hitched up to their main colony ship, and those previously spotted timefall generating emission panels. Paulo and Staves both took turns on the telescope trying to spot them again, with little success. Little as opposed to no, on account of a sighting of just one of the timefall emitters disconnected from the rest of the station, floating roughly where the station should have been according to the previously charted orbital path. Maybe the IPA was onto them and had changed course, but leaving an extremely expensive and dangerous weapons system behind didn't seem like their style. There was more afoot, but further hints weren't to come until about a week later, when the ship's engines flashed to life once again. "Is everyone ready?" Issa called from the bridge. A few affirmatives came from the dormitory. The new plan of lying in the megabed with closed eyes worked quite well at overcoming Gravitov sickness as the ship roared back to orbit, slower this time for all the added weight the Bystone collection had added. Once all was stable, a meeting was held around the shield generator, seeing as it was the only place everyone could fit into all at once. Well, there was the bed, but it seemed a little less official. "Something is happening. We have to be very careful," Paulo said. "They've definitely moved their headquarters from the natural course, meaning they're either trying something new, or they're aware we're looking for them. If they know we're coming, and they're running, then we are hunting them like beasts," Kerma said excitedly. "They are weak. We can win." "She's right," Holt said. "Weren't you saying that the IPA main ship could just blow us up if they wanted? They don't need a trap or anything, so why else are they hiding?" "They might be going home, since they realized they were terrible people," Staves offered. "This ain't a fable, Wonk," Boy said. "They have the power of the Overlord, but nothing else. They want us dead, so if they're not killing us right now, they must have their hands tied." "Could be the others," Est said. "Was there a battleship stashed in the belt or something? Maybe Logcom took them all out." "Battleships show up on sensors, I'm afraid," Issa said. "I've been looking for something that size this whole time."
What if it got smaller? Staves asked. Not really a thing in space. Wait, no, he's right, Paulo said. That emitter panel was massive. Maybe not enough to dip below sensors if you lost it, but what if they've been shedding more parts since they moved? OPA station might not even exist anymore. And the colony ship isn't that big, just a few thousand people on ice to set up shop once the extermination is over. Try scanning for tiny objects, ship components, junk. Yes, well, I had thought of that, but I think Retakot's orbit's rather polluted on account of people like myself and Est. Sorry, but you have to try. Nothing else to do while we're here, is there?
Not while we're all sharing a trunking bed. I say look for anything and everything, Holt said. For the next couple of days, the ship's scanners were used to search for small pieces of debris, and indeed they found them in vast supply. The remains of OPA ships headed for Retakot were dissipating across orbital paths all around the planet. ESA was forced to sift through all that data, seeing the extent of the destruction in undeniable terms. However, this was not fruitless, for something strange stuck out. There was a field of debris that wasn't in orbit of Retakot, but the central star, just like the OPA station had been. Charting it revealed a spot of extreme density. Spotlight scans left no doubt. It was pieces of the OPA main station, including the shattered remains of another timefall emitter. Some of it was still vaguely intact, and the external lights were still on. Beside it, there was an area of space where no debris was present, despite there being bits big and small all around it.
That's the IPA colony ship. It's still there, Paulo said. It's long and winding like a snake. Usually there's a battleship with it. Too big to cloak, you'd see it there. And given the station, I think something went wrong. This could be our chance.
Chance to do what? Holt asked.
We can enter the OPA station and steal drive components. Split open like this, we might be able to spacewalk right into the central vaults.
You really that stupid, Butter? Huntsman asked. Said it yourself. IPA are still there. They probably blew this thing up for whatever reason. If they haven't moved on, we've caught them in the act. Might as well keep our little cloaking butternut buzzing away, see if their invisible ship slithers off, then we steal whatever we need.
What if that already happened, and the IPA are doing what you just said? Staves asked. Yeah, they could be trying to steal the stuff too, Lady said.
Too much of a risk. I say we wait, Boy said.
No point waiting, Issa said. They're on a different orbital cycle. In 2 weeks, they'll be out of our range. Then could be years before they pass close to Retakot again. We're lucky to have this chance at all. Now or never, as they say.
But we don't have a trucking idea of what we're getting into here, or if it's even gonna help, Holt protested.
Actually, there is a way to look a little closer. Please stay calm, Issa said, with an infuriating wink. She was referring to a little magic contained within that AI processor core the Chancers had been tasked with retrieving. So far, it was mainly sitting happily in the ship's computer, turning Issa's flight orders into usable trajectories, but that was only the beginning of its power. The crew were gathered now in front of the television in the living section, and finally used it for something aside from a poor quality mirror. Once the scan goes through, we should be able to see what's going on in fine detail, Issa reported. Everyone waited for about 20 minutes, with Issa constantly walking back and forth between the TV and the computer core in the next room. Then finally something began to materialize on the screen. It was a mess of brown metal in a haze of shimmering micro-debris. A diamond-shaped section stood out, mostly for being intact. Okay, that's the framework. Now we go through the filters, Issa said. What this turned out to mean was that images of the section's interior came and went, highlighting different materials one by one. It was incredibly blurry and hard to interpret, but one thing was clear. There were people moving around on board. Can they see us too? Staves asked. Not yet. Now what we'll do is run the simulation, Issa said. This data isn't enough to simulate anything, Paulo said. You've missed out on a few things since your time, Dr. Beauchard. And once a computer knows enough about things, it can use that to work out what will happen when a new thing begins.
You have AI training that can generate actual future realities?
A little bit. I set it up, so let's see. On the television screen, the crew's cargo shuttle was seen flying towards that diamond section and docking to the side. Then the image switched to view the interior. A group of faceless, flat-textured figures moved from the shuttle to the station. "That's us, huh?" Huntsman asked.
Wait, what happens to us here if we die inside the magic mirror? Lady asked.
"Get to appreciate being alive a little more," Est snorted. Said magic mirror showed the crew's avatars moving through some poorly lit but spacious chambers, all coloured brown and covered in signs of fighting, with whatever equipment and furnishings used to be there, reduced to cluttered wreckage pushed up against the walls. Then there was a honking noise.
Right, it's going to simulate what the IPA personnel on board will do if they detect us sneaking in, Issa said.
On the screen, a door shuddered open and a load of space-suited soldiers rushed in. Saying nothing, they exchanged shots with the crew. About half the IPA fell, and all of the Chancers.
"This mind knows we shall die, or is that simply what it desires?" Comariero asked.
"It thinks our death is likely, that's all," Issa replied.
"Could have told you that myself, butter," Huntsman said.
"Looks like the section is full of IPA soldiers, and lots of Killmonth sentinels."
"She means the death robots," Paulo added. "But what about the Tanaka drive? Is it there?"
"We can't see most of the section. I think there's something emitting serious radiation, messing with the deep scan."
"Could be a core leak."
"Or an IPA trick. If there are soldiers there, isn't there something they're looking for?" "Not a big section. They would find things fast. They might be stuck there," Tokka speculated.
"Or whatever they need to do, they can't, and they can't go back either. That kind of deal," Holt offered. The Rimworld special. Fits like paste in a pod," Huntsman said.
"Can't we do anything to trick them into leaving?" Lady asked.
"A great idea. Computer will know," Issa chirped, bouncing out of the room. She returned after a few minutes and pointed at the screen. On it, the Chancers saw their shuttle hover at a distance from the station, while their avatars laid out a series of turret guns plugged into the shuttle's engines. They fired at the station, and the IPA soldiers came outside. This time, they were joined by the death robots, which flung themselves through the vacuum with sword arms waving and slug launchers knocking them around with their recoil. A short battle ensued that seemed like it could go either way, until one of the IPA soldiers fired a cluster rocket into the scene, quickly adding the crew and shuttle to the debris and dust veiling the station.
"I thought I would do it that time," Stave said.
"If this was real, we would have done it," Kerma assured him.
"How is this? Why do we have to look at this?" Boy asked.
"Don't have to. Useful to know, though," Issa said.
"She's right," Paulo said. "Did you notice the death robots didn't react to us inside the station? They must be programmed to stop threats on the outside. That means we can sneak in and only have to worry about the IPA."
"And the computer says they'll kill us, so now what?" Holt said.
"We check more simulations. The scanners will get a better picture of what's in there every minute. We plan a way to enter through the hull with a breach and get right to wherever the Tanaka drive might be. We take it and go."
"IPA would have done that already if they could, butter," Huntsman said.
"Yeah, well, we'll manage it," Paulo shrugged.
"Plan is, come up with a plan once we're there. Got it," Est concluded.
"One thing we can take away from whatever all that was. Looks like the IPA aren't in control here," Holt said. "And how are there death robots there anyway? Aren't they under the control of the thing, the terraforming machine?"
"Usually, or they're supposed to be," Paulo said. "But those are leftovers the OPA kept all this time somewhere, probably in the same vault that contained the Tanaka drive. Given that this part of the station is still here and the rest isn't, makes me think this area was reinforced and survived whatever took the rest of the station out."
"But what took it out if it wasn't the IPA?"
"I don't know."
"Starting to see it yet?" Boy said. "The Overlord? We were never supposed to get here, and now that we're up here in the cosmos they can kill us any time. Instead, they're in some kind of trouble. bits everywhere, right on time. Gotta admit something's happening here.
Yeah, thing about the Overlord, boy, is... Well, let's just say those kinds of things don't get involved with stuff like this, Paulo said.
Because it's heresy, Staves nodded.
It's that for sure, man.
You might be used to how things get twisted up on the rim by now, but check this out. Boy was almost right. There was something powerful at play here, and something much closer to his very conception of the Overlord than he thought. Intrigued? We'll see a little more once the crew come up with a plan to get inside this mysterious floating vault. Might take a while, but it'll certainly be worth it.